जयम विष्णुपद परमहंस प्रवृषिकाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद शिल भाई चंद्रावलिन भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री ठाकुर हरिदास की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौ भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा देवी की जय। यमुनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन पीवीटी संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashtaprayishva Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishne Swadhamopagate Dharmajnanadibhisaha Kalau Nashtadrisham Esha Puranarko Dhunoditaha. This is Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text number 3. Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahaya Iha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya Krishnad Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya Janasya Krishnad Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahayeha Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardanasya. ladies. Janasya, of the common man, Krishnat, from the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Vimukhasya, of the one who has turned his face against the Lord, Devat, by the influence of external energy, Adharnamashilasya, of one who is engaged in irreligion, Sudukhitasya, of one who is always unhappy, Anugrahaya, due to being compassionate towards them, Iha, in this world, Charanti, wander, Nunam, certainly, Bhutani, persons, Bhavyani, great philanthropic souls, Janardanasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder and Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Purport. To be obedient to the wishes of the Supreme Lord is the natural position of every living entity. But due only to past misdeeds, a living being becomes averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers all the miseries of material existence. No one has anything to do but render devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. Therefore, any activity other than transcendental loving service to the Lord is more or less a rebellious action against the supreme will. All fruitive activity, empirical philosophy, and mysticism are more or less against the sense of subordination to the Lord. And any living entity engaged in such rebellious activity is more or less condemned by the laws of material nature, which work under the subordination of the Lord. Great, unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate toward the fallen, and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing souls back to Godhead. Yeah, that one. Thank you. Back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen souls. And therefore the common man, who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord, should avail himself of their association. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utapalakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sarivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Krivaya Yadi Tadeva Sampayah Pitva Hrishayustat Priyajanaha Janasya Krishnad Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahayeha charanti nunam bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Jana, the word jana means ordinary person, man. In Sanskrit, everything is sexist. We use sexist pronouns, sexist nouns. Everything has its gender. There is variety. So this is a man, ordinary man. And what kind of ordinary man? Krishnad Vimukhasya, somebody who has turned his face against Krishna, away from Krishna. Krishnad Vimukhasya. This is described elsewhere in the Bhagavatam as well. Ishad apeta. Anybody know the verse? Famous, yes. Bhayam dvitiya ityadi. So Ishad apeta means having turned away from God. Same thing. And Devat, on account of Daiva, Adharmashilasya. This person's character becomes by nature sinful. It's a stative thing here. Adharmashila means his shila, his character, is adharmic. That's what happens when you turn. You can't avoid it. There's no basis for morality in this world other than religion. People need to know this. Here in America, I think in recent years, everything has become so political here, is it not? It seems. Looking from overseas, this is my assessment. So they like to say, what is that? Politics is downstream from culture. You ever heard this? Politics is downstream from culture. What they don't realize is that culture is downstream from religion. So the basis of all morality in this world, we have to admit, is only God. And without him, what happens? Everything goes to hell. Shesham bantanahi jar. What is it? Brithachanma galotar. What is the next line? She pashud boroduracharana. Or is it nitaina bolilo mukhe majilo samsara sukhe? Ityadi. The same idea is there. No relationship with Nityananda, no chanting of the holy name, then you're going to be an animal. And that's what it means. Adharmashila means you're an animal. Without dharma, dharmasya hina pashubhisamana, Hitopadesh tells us. A human being is not biologically defined. A human being is defined in terms of his adherence to standard conventions of dharma, or injunctions of the Shastra, better yet. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, after all. Tasmat chastram pramanam te karya karya vijanataha. A person should know. He should be able to discriminate what to do and what not to do. And on what basis do you decide? On the basis of what the Shastra says. Shastra vidhi. Vidhi means the injunctions, what you're told to do. If you are obedient, then you are a human being, obedient to the laws of dharma. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. And if you have this adharma shila instead, then what happens? You will disobey the injunctions of the Shastra, and as a result of that, what happens next? This is the third adjective here. Sudukhitasya. Sudukhitasya means you become most miserable. Su here means, according to Vamshidhara Acharya, one of the minor commentaries on the Bhagavatam, ativa, su. Su can mean very good, or it can mean very much. In this case, it means very much. You become very much miserable. Have you noticed? If you're sinful, you become miserable. One of my friends from South India, he came to the States with the American dream. Somehow they all end up at Niagara Falls, all Indians. I don't know what the rumor is in India about this. I should know by now, but anyway, so he said that as a result of merging into the American dream, he became miserable. Sudukhitasya, this is the idea. So this is the first half of the verse, is describing the conditioned soul who has turned his back against Krishna. And Sridhar Swami makes it clear. Daivat prachina karmano nimitta bhutat. On account of the reactions of things that you have done who knows how long ago. Prachina means ancient. You may have done these things kalpas ago, eons ago, no way to tell. But on account of that, then you become overwhelmed by the reactions. That is the meaning of the word daiva here, because daiva can mean many things. What does daiva mean? Daiva means fate. That's the generic definition, daiva. Here Prabhupada translates by the influence of the external energy. Well, that fate would fall under that category, wouldn't it? So daiva means fate, but daiva also means even deity. Daivam. So on account of Krishna, do we become sudukhitasya? One can wonder like this. Where would we be without Srila Prabhupada, without the acharyas that Srila Prabhupada is representing for us? We wouldn't be able to understand any of these things. So, Daivat, Sridhar Swami says, Prachina karmano namita bhutat. On account of your karma from who knows how long in the past. What happens? Krishnad vimukyata. Krishnad vimukya. You become turned away from Krishna. You can be impelled towards sinful life on account of your bad karma. That's why it's an important thing to be pious. Even if you're a devotee, you have to be pious. What do we hear about this in chapter 7, text 28? Nobody knows? You'll know if I give you a prompt. Yesham? Yes. So Krishna advises indirectly by way of via negativa. He says, if you are sinful, you'll not be able to sustain a mature commitment to pure devotional service. So it's important to be dharmatma is one of the words he uses elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, or punyatma. You should be pious. And a devotee by nature is automatically pious. Why would a devotee not be pious? We'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, when we turn away from Krishna on account of impious things, what is this called? Aprarabdha karma. Rupa Goswami describes this in the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Aprarabdha karma means you're not suffering from it yet, but you have a mental predisposition that kind of impels you to act in this way or that way. That's why it's difficult to give up sense gratification. And for some people, for less fortunate people, it's actually difficult to give up even sinful life, what to speak of sense gratification. So this is the problem. That's called a dharmashila. Your character itself has become irreligious. And naturally, if you're irreligious and you're turned away from God in this world, then what is there to experience? Only sudukha, great suffering. This is what Krishna describes as tamasic life in the chapters, 14, 17, and 18. From beginning to end, it's only misery. The English poet, what is his name? T.S. Eliot. He wrote a famous poem called Four Quarters. He was a Nobel laureate. And he said, from wrong to wrong, the exasperated spirit proceeds unless redeemed by some refining fire. From wrong to wrong, the exasperated spirit proceeds until redeemed by some refining fire. That in the mode of ignorance, we can only do wrong, and we can only suffer. From beginning to end, Krishna says, it's just suffering, and darkness, and bewilderment, and confusion. This is the state of most people in the modern world. Especially some places more than others, I have to say. Now we're seeing World War III is beginning to unfold. And if you've got relatives in Ukraine, or even in Russia for that matter, or even in America, or anywhere, we're all involved. And things are looking pretty dark. And that's without even considering COVID-19, gift of the Communist Party of China. So, sudukha. We have to suffer intensely as a result of our sinful activities. And those sinful activities themselves come from having turned away from Krishna at some point and creating a sinful nature that further impels more sinful activities. So it's a vicious cycle. So fortunately for us, what do we do about this? Actually, Jiva Goswami, in his Bhakti Sandarbha, Anuchhed number 179, he raises a very important question. If bhakti is rare and very difficult, then how in the world does one attain it? It's a very crucial question. Klesha ghni shubhada moksha laghuta kritsa durlabha. This is Rupa Goswami says, bhakti is very rare. And we've all experienced, I'm sure, it's not so easy thing to perform bhakti, although it's simple. But it's not that easy because we're sick. What is that? Another poet. He said, sick with desire and chained to a dying animal. That's us. So in that consciousness, it's not so easy to perform devotional service. So what do? He says. He cites 10th Canto, Chapter 51, Text 53. Anybody who's got a gadget on them, maybe you can bring up that verse. Huh? No, not that one. It's not a so well-known verse, but it's a very important one. Bhavapa vargo brahmato yadhi bhavet janasya tarhi achyuta sat samagamaha sat sangamo yarhita daiva sadgatao paravareshe tvai jayate matihi. Your consciousness, mati, it will not be inclined towards the Supreme Lord of both the material and spiritual worlds, who is the goal of the really truthful people, sadgati. Your consciousnse will never become inclined to him until you get satsanga. This is the point. Mahantaste, what is that? Mahat sevam dvaramahurvimukte. Same kind of idea. So, Pavapa vargo brahmato. We're wandering throughout this material existence called pavarga. I don't need to explain pavarga, you all understand. Parishram, what is that? Pena, banta, bhaya, mrityu. These 5 things characterize this material world. We have to deal with them. You don't have a choice about it. Just like you don't have a choice which of your daily activities are being recorded by somebody in Shenzhen. You don't have a choice. So in the same way, we don't really have a choice. We're wandering around material existence and we're experiencing these kinds of hard work, misery that results from foaming at the mouth. That's how hard we work sometimes. And we get bound up by that work as well, as if the hard work itself weren't miserable enough. Then there's reactions for performing. Let's say you work here at In-N-Out Burger. I was walking past there the other day. There's always a long line of cars there, is it not? And the people who are working there, they're handing out this stuff very enthusiastically, and just they don't know that they're entangling themselves further in sinful reactions. Nate viduhu sarthagatim hi Vishnu. They depend on us to help them, my friends. Who else is going to do it except somebody whose life has been touched by Srila Prabhupada? So, wandering in this way, when your material life has come to an end, then you are blessed with Achyuta Sat Samagamaha, the contact of devotees of Achyuta. Very nice verse from the 10th canto here. And Janasya, here the word is used, the very same word is used, ordinary person. But if we have been touched by a pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, or even anyone representing him, it's kind of like COVID-19. There are many cases in ISKCON, actually. You may not be a pure devotee, but if you're giving that book, if you're inviting that person to the temple, if you're encouraging that person to chant or say, take prasadam, you may be infected with COVID-19 and not be showing any symptoms, right? And you can infect someone else. That's why we're wearing masks. That's why I didn't come to the temple for the first 3 days that I'm here, because I was not feeling well. We never know what it is. You may be infected with this disease, and you may be infecting others, and you never even realize it. It works like that. Even with devotional service, it's been seen. My god sister Parvati, Devi Dasi, bless her heart, she's no more in this world. But she told me that she first came in contact with Krishna consciousness through the instructions given to her by 2 blooped sannyasis who were in Nepal in search of hashish. So it can happen, you see. So even such persons, Lord Chaitanya is so eager to spread this movement that even such persons he's willing to use And he has done so. You can't deny this. It's history. It's gone history. So when we come in contact with somebody who's disseminating Krishna consciousness somehow or other, by chance or by fate or whatever you want to call it, that is the thing that actually ends our material existence. And that's when Krishna consciousness can awaken in our own minds. Only then. Otherwise it doesn't happen. The same thing. And so then Jiva Goswami, he quotes this verse, today's verse, just to substantiate this point. He says that when there's no longer any reason for the continued existence of the misconceptions that we have that make one averse to Krishna. Because why do we turn away from Krishna? On account of ignorance. When there's no longer any reason for those misconceptions to continue, then they come to an end, and then the actual truth, which makes one fall in love with Krishna, becomes manifest in your heart. Very beautifully he's describing it. And then he quotes this verse as evidence. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Now, Srila Prabhupada, a couple of sentences only, we don't have time to dilate too much, but there are a couple of things I found very striking in his purport here. He says, we've already discussed one of them. Due only to past misdeeds, the living entity becomes averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord and suffers all the miseries of material existence. We've described that already, but Srila Prabhupada has put it very nicely here, so I thought it should be repeated. Then another thing he says is that great unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate toward the fallen. And therefore they travel all over the world. Some of them just left yesterday morning, is it not? Brigupati and Ananda Tirtha is his name? What is his name? Ananda Kirtan. So they have the mission of bringing souls back to Godhead, back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen souls, and therefore the common man who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord should avail himself of their association. This isn't the last sentence of this purport. It's not an instruction for the common man. It's an instruction for us, because only we have even that much intelligence to figure out that devotees are special, having read this purport at least. So I'm going to end now necessarily because it's late, but Jiva Goswami also in this same passage from Bhakti Sandarbha, he's quoting from the 10th canto, 10th chapter, text 41. Sons of Kuvera, after the whole Damodar pastime, Krishna told them that, what is that verse? I forget just now the Sanskrit, but devotees are like the sun. They're brilliant like the sun. When you're face to face with a devotee, there cannot be any darkness. Srila Prabhupada's association was like that. We would have so many misconceptions and so many emotions and so many things churning throughout our minds. As soon as we're in Prabhupada's association, everything is very clear. Everything is peaceful. Everything happy, blissful. This is the effect of satsanga. So, such devotees are described in Srila Prabhupada's purport to chapter 25 of the Madhya Lila in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Without being empowered by the direct potency of Lord Krishna to fulfill his desire, and without being specifically favored by the Lord, no human being can become a spiritual master of the whole world. He certainly cannot succeed by mental concoction, which is not meant for the devotees or religious people. We concoct a lot of things. We have to be very careful about that. Only an empowered personality can distribute the holy name of the Lord and enjoin all fallen souls to worship Krishna. By distributing the holy name of the Lord, he cleanses the hearts of the most fallen people. Therefore, he extinguishes the blazing fire of the material world, as we sing every morning, for this reason. Not only that, he broadcasts the shining brightness of Krishna's effulgence throughout the world. Such an acharya or spiritual master should be considered non-different from Krishna. That is, he should be considered the incarnation of Lord Krishna's potency. Such a personality is Krishna Alingata Vigraha. What does that mean? Anybody knows a little Sanskrit? Krishna Alingata Vigraha. Embraced by Krishna. Yes. There's an innuendo here of Madhurya Rasa. That is, he's always embraced by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Such a person is above the considerations of the Varnashram institution. He is a guru, or spiritual master for the entire world. A devotee on the topmost platform, the Mahabhagavata stage, and a Paramahamsa Thakur, a spiritual form only fit to be addressed as Paramahamsa or Thakur. Nonetheless, there are many people who are just like owls and never open their eyes to see the sunshine. These owlish personalities, who are inferior even to Mayavadi sannyasis, cannot see the brilliance of Krishna's favor upon the Mahabhagavata devotee. So nicely put. I think this is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur being paraphrased by Srila Prabhupada in this purport. They're prepared to criticize a person engaged in distributing the holy name all over the world and following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who wanted Krishna consciousness preached in every town and city. So these are the great devotees, the devotees who dedicate their lives to propagating the glories of the holy name. Does this sound familiar? It sounds like something we've heard in the Padma Purana, right? Anybody know the verse? Satam ninda namnaha paramama paradham vitanute yata kyatim yataha katamusahate tadvagaraham. Katamusahate. How can the Lord tolerate it? That's what it says, actually. The Lord cannot tolerate this. If someone criticizes devotees who are preaching Krishna consciousness, devotees who are distributing Srila Prabhupada's book selflessly, only to help other people, we don't have to go out on Sankirtan. We can perform our material activities happily at home, like all the other janasyas of this material world. But on behalf of our spiritual master, we do this sacrifice. And that makes even ordinary devotees who are representing Srila Prabhupada, they're very special. They're not ordinary, actually. Very, very special. All right, so here they're called, I think it was Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary, he says, Sarva Bhutanugrahaka Bhavadvidha Mahabhagavata Eva Tattvam Jananti Aha Bhavyani Bhutani Mangalarupa Bhaktaha. The devotees who are completely all auspicious. This is the meaning of the word bhavya. Bhutani bhavyani. Such auspicious beings these are, these devotees who are preaching Krishna consciousness. Why? Because they're Janardanasya. They're coming from Lord Janardan. Janardan, what does that mean? Jana Ardan. Ardan means, actually, it means a few things. Prabhupada has translated it in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, as the maintainer of all living beings. That's okay. Normally, arda, as a verb, means to pummel someone, or to harass, or to impel, or to get someone moving. This is what Janardan does. Even his devotees, he pushes them. And Srila Prabhupada also, as the representative of Janardan, he incites or impels or even agitates people to do something. This is necessary. You cannot maintain without this, right? He knows. Any manager knows. Sometimes you have to be heavy. So Janardan, these devotees are coming from Janardan, and the implication here is that they're representing Janardan, and therefore they're pushing. As they're being pushed by their spiritual master, who himself is being pushed by his own Guru Parampara, Ultimately, it goes back to Janardhan, and we're pushing on the conditioned souls. Please take this book. You will like this so much. Please. No, it's okay. You can take it. You can do this. This is why Sheshika says all the time. You have a choice. So, all right. These are just a few things that we can say that are from the commentaries of our predecessors, Sridhar Swami and Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Vamshidhara Acharya, and especially Srila Prabhupada. Everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's purport. But I'm going to have to stop now. Does anyone have any questions or any comments? Yes, Prabhuji.
A question that I've had for quite some time, but it's in relationship to this class. These janasya Krishna vimuktasya, these persons who are under the spell of the material energy and who have turned their back from Krishna, how much free choice do they actually have underneath the spell of the material energy? Because it seems like, some places it seems like there's quite a scope for free will, but in other places, prakriti kriya manani gunika, it seems like they're just being pulled by the material energy until they meet a devotee who gives them the option, Krishna or Maya.
Yeah, this is the point of that verse that Jiva Goswami quotes from 10th Canto, chapter 51, text 53. Really, the fact of the matter is that we are just being pushed around by the modes of material nature, and practically we don't have any choice. There is always choice. It is possible to turn towards Krishna, but it is extremely unlikely as long as we're subjugated. Vashikrita, the word is used in Sanskrit, under the influence of this material energy. We forfeit most of our minute independence. This is the fact. Like a drunk person, this is another example given. A person coming out of a bar, what chance do you have to preach to that person? Not much, because he's not there really fully. You see? So we're all intoxicated. I think this was used as some such language was used in the purport here. The devotees or the non-devotees are, anyways, the idea is that we're overwhelmed by the material energy. And so we can hardly have any independence. But it is still there, it's always there. Really, it's awakened only when we have the shining light of some other possibility in the form of the character of a devotee who's actually dharmashila. A devotee who's actually got faith and is acting on that faith and is advancing spiritually. When we see this, then we realize that there's another option here. This is the power of the Pure Devotees Association. So we have choice and we don't have choice at the same time. It's kind of like, I guess that's why they say, pashyannapi na pashyati. We see but we don't see. Is that okay? Yes.
Prabhu, that comment that you make about devotees are like sunshine, like a sunshine. So, isn't it required the same quality of the devotee who sees other devotees, like an association of many devotees, you have different levels of consciousness, and to make them work together, especially the managers know that more than anybody else, it's become so difficult because you don't have that vision of saying, oh, the devotees are sunshine, like sunshine. It looks like that statement is for someone who's like Paramahansa, who just is, everybody's like doing something really good. But for those that we are not, what will be your recommendation to come to that platform? What would you recommend them? Because instead of becoming critical, fighting, and putting down, and that stops the preaching too. Can you?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I see two ways to approach this. One answer is that we have to try to appreciate the good in others. A good man appreciates the good in others. And there is always good. In anyone who takes to Krishna consciousness, there's good there. Otherwise he wouldn't have taken to Krishna consciousness. We have to try to appreciate that. That's an important thing. That even for just, if only for our own self-development, we should try to cultivate that appreciation. Second thing is, I feel that Srila Prabhupada, when he gave us two instructions, chief instructions at the end in 1977, he said, please, you cooperatively sustain whatever I have established, and you try to implement Varnashram Dharma. And I see that those are connected, because if you're looking to cooperate as a society, there has to be some ground rules that everybody recognizes and follows. And in order to be universally accepted, they have to be clearly authorized. That you can't just make up your own things as you go along. It has to be coming from Shastra, as we said in the beginning. So that is the case only with Dharma in general, but in particular with Varnashram, because Krishna indicates in chapter 3, it's meant for, among other things, it's meant for loka sangraha, social solidarity. People respect each other when they're following what they're supposed to be following. When there's any question of that, that's when the conflicts develop. So it's objective. This is the point. Everybody follows dharma, but they may be following it according to their own prescription. That's okay, because everyone is an individual. But everybody has to take the prescription. This is the point. So that's a practical way to look at it, and a theoretical way to look at it is that we have to try to cultivate this deeper appreciation. Imagine your life without any devotees. Then you would really appreciate that person that you're criticizing now. Compared to what the alternatives are, anybody in this temple is a lot better than anybody out there. Even though sometimes it doesn't look that way. The good qualities of the so-called non-devotees, they're not really good qualities. This is discussed in the 5th canto, as you know. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana, etc. And the bad qualities of the devotees, they're not really bad qualities either, because it's just some residue, and it will be burned up in due course of time. But we have to be patient. Those are two things that come to my mind at the moment. I hope it's satisfactory. Okay, all right, so I better stop now. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.